George R. Gossett is represented by his son, Kim. Kim, would you join me up here? Again, this doesn't even come close to covering everything about him that we took into consideration and why he's being honored here tonight. But okay. Back in the late 50s and early 60s, George Gossett simply was ahead of his time with wild ideas about materials management education, importance, and leadership. His influence and passion led to the launch of a professional association dedicated to healthcare supply chain management, known today as AHRMM, for which he also served as its first president, and which named its highest honor, the Leadership Award, after him. You heard that from Debbie earlier. George Gossett's son, Kim, will share with you a few words, and we want to congratulate George for being a member of the 2010 class of the Bellwether League. John?
God bless you all for being here tonight. This is a tremendous honor for me to stand in your presence here this evening. I first would like to thank Rick and Jamie and the board members for Bellwether. What an incredible display you have put on in this field. I'd also like to share with each and every one of you here tonight that even though there is a handful of those that are being honored on this night for the work that they have done, every one of you in this room tonight ought to be thankful and proud of the work that you do. Because someone out there tonight has been touched in their life, whether they know you or not, by the incredible work that you have done in this healthcare, resource, material, and management field. This is a great honor for me to be here tonight and to receive this award on behalf of my father. I think it would be a blessed moment for us all tonight if I could just have a moment to share with you a little bit about the man, George R. Gossett. Many of you in here are familiar with the name that's associated with the award, and what an honor that is for our family, that after all these years that this leadership award has still been given to those in the healthcare field that have achieved a level of a heart for caring for people and the need of management in the hospital healthcare industry. So this is a great honor tonight. You know the name, George R. Gossett, and I would like to just take a moment to share with you, if I may, about the man. My father was a God-fearing man. His faith was in the Word of God, and he raised us in the family to always have our faith and our trust in the Lord. As a young boy, my dad always told me, he said, son, if you're ever going to be a leader someday, you'll be a servant first, because it's those who serve that give the example to others to follow, upon which now they can lead others in that way. My dad was a man that when we were born, and my brother and sister and I were born in the early 50s, he was a very family-oriented man. His whole life was my mom and us children. And when we were first born in the 50s, we lived in a place called the Projects outside Berea, Ohio. And as you know, the Projects are where people that are poor live. My dad, George, worked 2 and 3 jobs as a young man to make sure that my mom never had to work, that he would put a roof over our head, and he would always provide food for us in the family. In 1957, he was given a great open door where he was asked to come and join the Polyclinic Hospital in Cleveland, Ohio. He was hired at that moment in time to become their purchasing agent. When my dad went into this field, his heart was for people. He would go in and see the incredible need that, and you know, tonight, please realize we're talking about the 1950s here. We're talking about 5 decades ago of a life that many of us today don't even grasp and understand. And that the healthcare industry itself was more than just a business. It was for people, and that was his heart. Soon after his work at the Polyclinic Hospital in Cleveland in 1957 and 58, I was 8, going on 9 years old at the time, he got a call from Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. They had heard about the work that he had done in the management field, helping hospitals set budgets and set priorities to where they would now really go out and expend themselves to bring in the best that they could to give health care to those that were in need. Johns Hopkins Hospital asked George to come, and he spent a week back there just giving insight and giving them some of the things that he had done with the Polyclinic Hospital in Cleveland. They only brought him in for basic insights. He returned back home. Within 2 months, we found out we were moving. And Johns Hopkins Hospital had offered him a position that he would come, and he and my mom prayed about it and felt this is where we were to go. So we moved to Baltimore from the Cleveland area. And for the next couple of years, he did an incredible work with Johns Hopkins Hospital. And once again, his life was always people. As a young boy, I remember that every Thanksgiving, my dad, having known what it was to be poor, knowing what it was as a young man to work 2 and 3 jobs to take care of a family, every year come Thanksgiving, he would go out and buy frozen turkeys. He'd put them in the car and take my brother and I with him, and we would go into these places outside of Baltimore, and back in those days, they called them shanties. And this is where a lot of impoverished people lived. And I don't know how, I know it was the Lord because my dad always knew where to go. And he would go to these homes and go up to a door, knock, and find someone that had never met him before, asking them, did they have food for Thanksgiving? And he'd come back and then have my brother or I take a frozen turkey and go up to that door and present it to a family that we had never seen before, would never see again. And as a young boy, I'll never forget the look on their faces when a stranger walked away and they now had food for Thanksgiving. Then when the Christmas season would come, he would take our old clothes that we had outgrown, our parkas and our coats and our boots and our gloves, and he would take them, we'd go out, fill the car, and once again go back into these shanties outside of Baltimore. And we would go to the poor and give them blessings for their children to be kept warm. This was the heart of the man that is named for this award that is given to you all that I'm so honored to stand here tonight and receive. Shortly thereafter, we got a call, and my dad was asked to go to Mercy Hospital in Pittsburgh. It was there that he was asked to come and help them, and they had a lot of work that needed to be done at the Mercy Hospital, so we then ended up moving to Pittsburgh. And it was during that time that my father really began to excel in this field. His name was really becoming known in reaching out in the healthcare industry to really work with people. That was always his heart, and he always shared with us as young boys to always make sure. He said, if you're having a bad day, son, someone's having a worse day. If you're having a hard day, someone out there is having a harder day. If you're hungry, someone out there is hungrier. And if you're ever lacking, someone is lacking more. My dad was a man that if he had but a nickel left in his pocket, he would have given it, that he could have walked away knowing he touched someone. That was the life of George R. Gossett. 1962, in New York, he was appointed and elected to be the very first president of the Association for Healthcare, Resources, Materials, and Management. An honor that, to this day, of course, I didn't know as an 11-year-old boy at the time what he had just achieved. As a son, I just wanted to know where my present was because my dad always brought back gifts from his journeys. But we never knew the fullness of what had happened in 1962 when he was appointed and elected as the first president. Many of you here tonight, I want to say God bless you all for the work that you do. And tragically, we lost him in 1965. He was only 38 years old. And yet he achieved so much in those years with the work that he did that tonight, I am so thankful to be here. I have met many of you here tonight that knew those like Lillian Matiska. I remember as a young boy, she'd come to our home in Pittsburgh and have dinner. She loved my dad, had a great, great relationship with him. It was very hard on her when my father passed away. I attribute a lot of the work of this George R. Gossett Leadership Award to Lillian Matiska because she was the front runner to bring in this award into this organization. And I was so blessed also to find out that she received that award before she passed on. I want to thank you all tonight for the work that you do, because in all respects, you should all be honored here as well tonight. And I'm thankful to be here and to accept this award on behalf of my dad. I've missed him for 45 years. But one day, I'll see him again. And I long for that. I think my dad would be proud of me today. I head up a nonprofit organization. I left corporate America in 1984 after making one trip to Africa. When I saw the plight and the need of the refugee camps in Kenya on the borders of Sudan, I came home and quit my job with National Semiconductor, which you've probably heard of as a large corporation in Silicon Valley. I've dedicated my life to the Lord, and now I travel the nations. I go to third world nations. I just got back from living in Kenya with my family for a whole year, and the work that we do over there is just incredible. And it's amazing that I find myself now, 45 years later, doing work in remote parts of Africa in hospitals that you wouldn't even think was a hospital. And unless you've been to a third world country in the bush, you have no idea the suffering that these people go through. But we take in gauze, bandages, medicine. We take in anything that we can. Thermometers. Oh, a thermometer in the bush is like a gold mine to some. The doctors don't even have those. We take these into remote parts of Africa. The last time I was in Kenya, this last year, we blessed a hospital there in the bush with all of these things, and all I could think about was my dad and how he did that on the standard here in America. We're doing it now in remote parts of the world. I want to say God bless you all tonight. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm going to take back a lot of memories from this night, and I thank those of you tonight that embraced me as well. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Kim, for sharing those thoughts about your dad. I know I didn't know any of those things. And thank you for what you do, too.